What's your first question?
The first question is, what is the sun made out of?
The sun is made out of mostly hydrogen gas. So it's mostly made out of an element called hydrogen and some helium, which is another element. Helium is sometimes in those balloons. You know the balloons that float up when you hold on to them, a helium balloon? But most of it is hydrogen, which is a different kind of gas. And gas is like, like this air is a gas. And so the surface of the sun is like this, but the center of the sun is actually very dense and very hot. So the sun is very hot. Very hot gas of hydrogen.
It could melt a spaceship. How near would you be before you was born?
How near would you be before you would burn?
Yeah.
That's a good question. So you get burned if it's really about 150 degrees or maybe 200 degrees, you would get really burned. So right now, the sun keeps us nice and warm. It keeps the earth nice and warm. But if we got closer, it would get hotter. And at the surface of the sun, it's 6,000 degrees, very hot. And then as you go further away from the sun, it gets cooler. So I think you probably have to go about 5 or 10 times closer to the sun than we are. So if this is the sun and this is us, you'd have to go real close, pretty close to the sun, and then you get burned.
How does the Earth go around the sun?
How does it go around the sun? So if this is the sun, okay, and this is the Earth, every year the Earth goes all the way around the sun, all the way like this, okay? So if this was maybe we're right here when we imagine it's May 19th, and it's your birthday, right, on May 19th. So if this was your birthday on May 19th, then we would go all the way around, and then this would be through the summer, and then winter, and then back to spring, and then May 19th again, okay? So we just keep going around, and around, and around, and every one of these is a year. A year goes by, so you're 7, and you're going to be 8, and you're going to be 9, and you're going to be 10, and so on, okay? Every day, it spins around. So in one day, it goes from here to here. So this is May 19th. It goes from May 19th to May 20th, to May 21st, to May 22nd. And every time it goes one day, it spins around once each time. Each time. Each time. And that's a day. Okay. But I want to tell you why the Earth goes around the sun. The reason the Earth goes around the sun, why it goes around the sun, is because when the Earth formed, okay, so now you have to go back, you have to imagine, okay, are you imagining? You have to imagine when there was no Earth, and when there was no Mercury or Venus or Mars or Jupiter, and the sun was sitting here and it was surrounded by a big gas and dust disk. Do you know what a disk is? It's like a big plate.
Yeah.
Right. So, and that gas and dust was orbiting around the sun, and orbiting around the sun, and orbiting around the sun, and then the Earth formed out of that. And since it formed out of stuff that was already going around the sun, it goes around the sun. So when you take all of that dust and gas that's going around the sun, and it makes a planet, all of a sudden imagine that disk, and all of a sudden imagine the Earth forming, and then it forms, it's still going to go around like this, okay?
How are stars made?
Oh, good question. Okay, so do you know what a galaxy looks like? Do you know what our galaxy looks like?
Sort of.
Sort of?
It's like huge.
It's huge.
Dark, and it has lots of stars.
You're right. So you're exactly right. So the galaxy also looks like a big disk, like a big plate. Okay, it also looks like that. And it also has gas and dust going around it. So in this big galaxy, which is much bigger than our sun, and much bigger than our Earth, the sun is going around. The sun is one of the stars in the galaxy that goes around and around and around. Okay, it takes a long time for it to go all the way around. It takes 200 million years to go all the way around. Okay, there are big blobs of gas and dust. Okay, and the big globs of gas and dust make new stars because the gas is sitting there. And the gas is sitting there, and sometimes there'll be a little place where there's a little more gas than another place. And that place where there's a little bit more gas feels its own gravity and starts to collapse. Okay? Because if you just had a bunch of gas, and all of a sudden there was a big source of gravity there, then the gas would fall on to the big source of gravity. And what happens is that there's a little place here, maybe, in the galaxy where there's a little more gas. And in that place, the gravity of the gas causes it to collapse down into a star. And do you know how many new stars get made in our galaxy every year? 1. About 1 new star. Every time your birthday goes by or your birthday goes by, you can imagine that 1 new sun, just like our sun, gets made in our galaxy. About 1 every year.
How do people survive in space?
Well, space is not very good for people. Space is not very good for people. So people need a bunch of things, right? Do you know what you need to live? What do you need to live?
Food.
Food. What else?
Air.
Air. What else?
The sun.
Right. So food, air. You need to be warm, right? You need water too. Okay. So you need food and air and water, and you need it to be warm. And space is pretty cold, and it has no air, and it has no water, and it has no food. So when you go up into space, you have to bring all of those things. Okay, you have to bring your water, you have to bring your food, you have to bring your air, and you have to have some way to keep warm. So that's why you see the astronauts in big spacesuits. So what they do is they have spacesuits that have a tank of water, so they can have some water, and they don't go out into space for very long to come back into their spaceship, so that they can eat food and go to the bathroom and things like that. Okay, and they also have ways of keeping things warm. The sun, because we usually go to places that are nearby the sun, we stay pretty warm because of the sun. But if we went far away from the sun, it would get very cold very fast. So we would need to heat our spaceships up.
Thank you.
You're welcome.